Well, I hope, ladies and gentlemen, you can all hear me. I hadn't, I should say, debated for many years, not in fact since school, until I met Gavin about a year ago, who persuaded me to defend the hopeless motion that the language of the law is in need of fundamental reform. And we took a show of hands, and the vote was about 99% in favour of the motion. I was there to defend it. It was like being in court. And in the end, we won it. And we won it through a very helpful hint from Gavin, which I'm going to resurrect tonight, which is, in a debate, it's always important to focus on one word of the motion. And Gavin has crafted this motion with the skill of Da Vinci, the code, by including in this motion the word now. Books have been written about this, the power of now. I am prepared to accept that back in 1215, when barons were prancing around Runnymede, fighting the autocratic power of the king, we did not need a written constitution. I'm prepared to accept that in the 17th century, when Parliament wrested power from an all-powerful king, and in the process itself became all-powerful, we didn't need a written constitution. I'm even prepared to accept that in the 19th century, even after the Great Reform Bill, which enfranchised about 1 in 5 adult males and no women, we didn't need a written constitution. Why? Because, ladies and gentlemen, we were not a democratic society. We were not a representative democracy. And it is interesting to just reflect, as I'm sure you all have before tonight, on that great book, The English Constitution, written by Walter Bagehot, who explained that we need an inefficient part of the Constitution. We need a monarchy. We need a monarchy because, to use his word, we should reverence it. And if he said you don't believe that, just go into your kitchen and try to talk to your cook. Now that is eerily reminiscent of Mervyn Griffith-Jones in the Lady Chatterley trial. Is this a book you would allow your servants to read? And what all these features have in common is the essential top-down nature of our society, a glittering but inefficient monarchy, a parliament that claims all sovereign power to itself. We are not, and I emphasize that, now a democratic society. So that is the first reason we need a written constitution. We need it because we need a constitution that reflects the values of a modern society, a multicultural, pluralistic, tolerant society, a bottom-up society in which the people are represented. The second reason why we need a written constitution, and by a written constitution I hope you all know what I mean, a codified constitution in which we know where we are with a set of ground rules we understand and have voted for. I'll come to that as my third reason. But with a written constitution of the kind I describe, you have entrenched values. And by entrenched, I mean exactly what I say. You have ground rules of tolerance, of fundamental rights, of proportionality and values, fundamental values, which cannot simply be taken away tomorrow with the next government. We have a government in office that, were it not, I think, for the Lib Dem influence, would have repealed the Human Rights Act. The Human Rights Act is not entrenched in our society. What Parliament has enacted today, Parliament can repeal tomorrow. That would not be the case with a written constitution. And I emphasize because the constitution would have within it particular ground rules which kept the values from being changed unless change was voted for at a very high threshold, probably not only through a parliamentary vote, but also through a series of referendums. And that brings me to my third reason why we need a written constitution now. And that third reason is, at first sight, sounds rather sloganistic, but it can be encapsulated in one sentence. Nobody ever voted for parliamentary sovereignty. What is parliamentary sovereignty? Parliamentary sovereignty is a sovereignty that allows Parliament to say, we have parliamentary privilege. We cannot, for example, be charged in court. That would protest against the expenses crisis being irrevocably put in the hands of a third authority, though it might temporarily agree to it for the sake of convenience. That would allow any law to be changed tomorrow, no matter how, inverted commas, constitutionally embedded it might appear to be. Curiously, it is parliamentary sovereignty that Bill Cash would rely upon to protect us from Europe. I say curiously because there is no mechanism more clearly than parliamentary sovereignty that can abdicate essential rights. It is parliamentary sovereignty that has actually allowed Europe to dominate us. It was, ironically, the German Constitutional Court back in the 70s which put constitutional values at the heart of its society, embedded constitutional values, and said the European Union had to recognize German constitutional rights, or Germany would simply trump EU law with its constitution. And guess what? Who backed down? And so I simply end on this note, having only 54 seconds left with Gavin's precise timekeeping. I end on this note that you cannot possibly have a society which is governed by a doctrine which is so fundamentally anti-democratic. If you started a rivet club in Croydon, even, you would not expect the president to say to you, here are the rules by which you elect me. You would expect a set of rules to be drawn up by the members of the club. As a constitutional democratic society, we should allow ourselves no less. Thank you.